Can you hear me now? I had my microphone on mute. Sorry, guys. I'm sure you can hear me now because it's like not blinking anymore. So, all right. It says there's sound. Hmm. All right. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear me now? It says there's sound. Okay, good, good, good. All right. So I'll start over, okay? So basically yesterday I started a 4-part series, okay? And it was all about determining measurable goals and annual goals in the IEP and what that looks like, okay? So yesterday we talked about the definition of that, including academic and functional goals. We talked about kind of the explanation of it in regards to the law. We talked about principles in formulating goals, and we talked about how it should be written with your IEP team. I wanted to be able to do a series with you guys and kind of wipe the slate clean, so to speak, because everybody's so overwhelmed with COVID. And I wanted to kind of clean it up and let you guys shut your minds down if that's even possible. I know it's probably not, but you know what? You can't not think about goals, especially right now. So even though there's COVID, can I do this? Can I get compensatory? Can I talk to the teachers? Should I have an IEP now? And all the things we've been talking about are all important. And we're going to talk about them over and over and over, especially with the ongoing issues that are going to start in the next week or two when schools start getting going. You know, I know here they start on the 12th. So I wanted to do this 4-part series. Today is day 2 of the series, so series part 2. And then we'll do 3 and 4 and finish it up this week. Okay? So I will not be going live tomorrow. I have a mediation, but I will probably do 3 on Wednesday, 4 on Thursday. Okay? So watch for those. And I'm going live a little bit earlier, like around the 7:30 time frame, because I'm fostering puppies. And they're a lot of work, guys. I mean, I have 2 little puppies. I'll have to take pictures and show you guys, but I'm going crazy. They're a lot of work, but I love it. But they're super cute, but oh my gosh, so busy. They keep me so busy. All right, so today we're going to talk about like step-by-step type procedures and determining measurable and annual goals. So I think you guys are going to learn a lot today too, but I want you to also go back and listen to series number 1 that we did yesterday. I think that was really important. Tina, you got to contact me. You won, the gift in July, so you got to contact me. All right, guys, so my name is Raven Woods. I'm the CEO and founder of Autism Mama Rocks the IEP, and I help parents gain the knowledge and the confidence to become the CEO of their IEP meeting. So with that said, if you are new to catching me live, your first through third time, post a 1 below for me, okay? I will even double dare you guys because I know it's really hard to just kind of put yourself out there and say, hey, I'm new and, I'm wanting to learn more about this whole IEP process. And the reason I say that is because I remember when I was new and I didn't know squat and I did not want to announce to the world, hey, I'm a mom. I have a child with special needs. And guess what? I don't know anything about this IEP process thing. I know nothing. What do I do? And I had to figure out that, guess what? Until I started asking questions, until I learned more and more and more, that I was going to be stuck and that, the only person that was going to suffer was not me, but my child. So I needed to just get with it and start learning. And that's what I did. And, since then it's, been amazing. And, my daughter's, really come a long way. And I take that to going back to asking questions. And sure, I have a educational background and I have my master's degree, but that did nothing for the IEP process. Teachers will tell you, a lot of teachers are on here. I've started getting strict about that because they don't want to answer any of the questions that everybody else answers. So I've started denying people because they don't want to answer the questions. But, and that's for my group. But teachers are on here, teachers are on my group, and they've said, you know, we're not taught that stuff. And my daughter's a teacher. I was a teacher. You're not taught about IEPs. So, you know, it's something we all can learn and all can learn from each other. And the most important part is learning from somebody, whether that's me or anybody else, that knows what they're talking about and has had success with it and in helping others and has had success with that. So you need to make sure of that, okay? Which goes to show that also not goes to show, but goes to another topic, which I still need to go over with you guys, the big New York complaint that I wrote and won. And my family is now getting compensatory services and all these different things because we filed this complaint, and it's been awesome. So I'm really happy about that. And so I will be sharing that with you this weekend on Sunday. Okay. So in moving forward, again, post a 1 below if you're new, a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. And if you want to share, please, please, please share. The more you share, the more it gets out there and the more knowledge people learn in reference to IEPs, okay? So share, your name goes into my hat. Where's my hat? Here's my hat, okay? Your name goes into the hat, and I draw from the hat at the end of every month, and you guys win things from an hour with me to Amazon gift cards, and it goes on and on, okay? So, and I'm going to switch it up every month, and it'll be just a fun thing, and all you got to do is share. So definitely share. And in probably about a month or two, I'm going to be starting to stream live on YouTube and Facebook. So I will announce that and let you know that when that happens soon, okay? I'm in the middle of uploading all my videos to YouTube, and then my assistants are going to get everything together with that, and then I'm going to start streaming live from YouTube as well, and have my phone in front of me and start streaming to, well, have my phone on because Instagram doesn't let you do that. So I'll be on Instagram as well. Okay. So I'm excited about that. It's going to be a little bit of a change for me. I'm so used to Facebook, but it'll be fun and we'll get that going. So if you want to go find me on YouTube, I'm not going live there yet, but if you want to like me on YouTube and like me on Instagram, I will be streaming from both of those in the next 2 months. So definitely catch me here, and I will make a big announcement and post some stuff when I start streaming to both of those social media sites as well. Okay? So let's talk about step-by-step procedures for determining measurable annual goals. Got my notes in front of me. You guys know I write all my content, all my stuff. So let's get going with this. Post your questions. I will answer them, and we'll go from there. Okay? So as I go, you're welcome to post your questions, and I'll answer them, a couple now, and then throughout the evening, I'll get back to you. But I got to prepare for this mediation. So I wanted to go live and make sure I did series number 2 with you. All right. Thank you for sharing, guys. Yay. Is it an hour limit? That's good to know. Because sometimes I go over an hour. But at least it'll be on my phone, and I'll stream from my computer to YouTube and Facebook. And then on my phone, it'll be, you know, Instagram. So if it cuts off, it cuts off. Oh, well, they can catch it on YouTube and they can catch it on Facebook, right? Thanks for that, Tina. I had no idea. All right. Kim says, you're amazing. You have a wealth of knowledge, and I have purchased the mini course and also your big. Oh, awesome. Oh, yeah. You told me. The big course, I have learned so much, and I have gotten my brain thinking of things I didn't even know I should be thinking about. I'm so planning on doing this next year after school starts, asking for another IEP to get more for my son. Thank you so much for everything. Oh, you're so welcome. Yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think about the big course. I love my big course. That took a lot of work, but it was worth it. Amy, welcome. Thank you for sharing. Marlena, or is it Marlene? Welcome. I consider myself a 1. That's fine. Welcome. Is an independent psycho-ed evaluation enough to see where your son stands intellectually? You want to do a psychoeducational, yes. And And yes, it does an IQ test. So it will have an IQ test on that evaluation. Neuropsychologicals are great, but schools typically won't pay for that in the beginning. And but yes, a psychoeducational is one of the first things that I love to ask for. Okay, it's so much better than a psychological, okay, because it's the psychological that mixes the education part. All right, so let's start off. Annual goals, all right? Hi, Mary, how are you? Yeah, California seems to be hotspot. I have 5 clients now from California. That's a big one. They must be a lot of fun for you guys. No, they're a tough cookie, that's for sure. All right, so annual goals should focus on knowledge, skill, behaviors, strategies to address your child's unique and individual needs, okay? So I want you to know that. They should address the knowledge, skills, and behaviors. They should be strategies to make sure that it hones in on those individual and unique needs, okay? One thing you want to also look at is the domains that should be attached to your child's goals, and the focus should be reading, writing, listening, organization, study skills, communication, physical development, motor skills, cognitive processing, problem solving, social skills, play skills, memory, visual perception, auditory perception, attention, behavior, and then for those who are transitioning, like community living and those types of skills, okay? So once you get through that and understand that that's where your goals should be focused around, they're called domains, okay? The goals on your child's IEP should relate to your child's unique and individual needs, and they should not be the general, okay, the general law or the general purpose of special education. It needs to be unique to your child. And goals should not be a reinstatement of that general idea or laws and statutes within your state, okay? It should be completely unique to your child, based off special education law, based on your state statutes, okay? So the goals should be all around, like we talked about yesterday, your present levels, okay? Your goals should be created from your present levels, all right? And when you create them, you need to focus on your domains. What are they, and what are the deficits, and the strengths and the weaknesses, which are all in your present levels. You create your goals, and your goals are based under the domains of each area. So if your child doesn't have auditory processing issues, then obviously they're not going to have auditory processing goals. But if they have auditory processing issues and deficits, then they're going to have auditory processing goals, okay? So goals should not be that reinstatement of just special education law. They should be unique to your child. That's so important, all right? And the main thing, too, is in developing your IEP goals, and this is important. I'm big on goals and data. You guys know that. Your team and you need to be really aware that you need to ask yourself a question, which is, what skills does my child require and need to master so that the curriculum content is there and they learn it, all right? You don't want it to be more along the lines of what curriculum do they have to master. It needs to be more what skills do they have to master to meet that curriculum, not the other way around, okay? And so what that means is, if your child, let's just say they do poorly on written tests, all right? And you know that their writing is an issue and that's a deficit, all right? They need to have goals around written expression, not goals around writing a large essay, okay? So if your child has, and they're older, writing or doing book report stuff, and, their issues are written work and writing things and written tests and anything in regards to that, then written expression should be the goals. Anything around written expression not how do you write an essay. All right. So these are just important things to kind of understand when it comes to learning about goals, because, you know, I had a parent say to me, well, this isn't really my expertise. I don't really know how a goal should look. I don't know what, you know, I should be focused on. And I said, well, none of us really know, but you do know because you have that gut instinct. You have that knowledge of your child, more knowledge than anybody does. So you can't say that that doesn't mean anything. And really, you do know what they can and can't do. And you know if the present levels are accurate. And if they are, then you know now that you build goals off of present levels. And if you know that the present levels aren't accurate because you know your child best, then a reevaluation has to take place and present levels need to come from that reevaluation. Just like she was asking about a psychoeducational. A psychoeducational will let you know your child's IQ, and you can compare it to when they had one before. Did it go up? Did it go down? Did it stay the same? Same thing with the reading and the math and all these different assessments. You're able to create present levels from that. So if your present levels are wrong, you need to make sure that you get a evaluation so that they can be updated. And especially right now, that's so important. All right. So another thing I want you to know is how far by when. All right. So that's kind of a sticky thing to chat about, but we're going to figure it out. Okay. So basically what that means is when you look at your present levels, you and your team have to address where your child is functioning. And once you address where your child's functioning, where their present levels are, the goals are super easy to make. What everybody seems to run into issues with is more how to say the goal, not what the goals should be. Okay, so we all know if there's, you know, we talked about yesterday, if they're not cutting on a straight line, obviously that needs to be a goal. But how it's written is very important and is honestly everything about the goal. So goals are easy to figure out based off of present levels, all right? You know that if in the present levels it says that your child is, you know, their strength is 1-digit subtraction and their weakness is 2-digit subtraction, or they're good at 2-digit subtraction and that's a strength, but they're not good at 2-digit subtraction with, you know, carrying and stuff like that, then you know that you want to have a continued goal on what their strength is. You always want to have that so that they continue to master it. But then you also need to create goals based off of where their deficit is. Okay? So that's important in creating SMART goals. Number one, you always want to create goals so they don't lose information, but you also want to create goals, obviously, off of the deficits so that they can build and master them. All right? And then we're going to talk about in a few minutes short-term objectives, how those work, and how they come into play in your child meeting their annual goal. All right, so if you're hopping on here, post a 1 below if you're new, post a 2 below if you're an oldie but goodie. 1 is your first through third time catching me live, and after 3, guys, you're not new. So post a 2 below if you are an oldie but goodie. All right, so moving forward, annual goal are important because they indicate what is expected by whatever period of time. Obviously, in an IEP, it's within a year. All right. So at the end of that year, okay, Mary, at the end of that year, that annual goal takes the student's present level from here to here, and that goal should specify what that looks like. All right. So if their present level says XYZ, all right, then ABC needs to be, I kind of did that backwards, but you know what I'm saying. So if present levels say your child is, you know, doing 2-digit subtraction, but the weaknesses say has trouble carrying, etc., then you continue with that 2-digit subtraction, and you solely focus on the weakness. Even though you're continuing this, you're solely focusing on that weakness of carrying over, and that should be your annual goal. So it can be your child will consistently do two-digit subtraction. You can name a number of times by such and such period of time, okay? So you want to make sure that you are giving your child ample enough time to be able to make that annual goal. All right? So another thing is, to be measurable, your annual goal should, in language, to you and the educators, be understandable. And we spoke about this yesterday, where your IEP should be, goals should be so clear that if you dropped it in the middle of the road and a 10-year-old picked the IEP up and read the goal, they would know what it meant. That it's that simple. A lot of teachers and educators I've found like to put several goals into one, or two goals into one. You don't want that. Separate them. All right? So they'll say, oh, well, and they'll give you excuses of why they combined it. But just separate it. That's it. Take those two goals that are combined and separate them into two. Make them two separate goals so each item is mastered versus working on both together. Because sometimes that makes it too complex for the child and their unique needs. And that could be and become an issue for them. All right. Sometimes things that are complex and not just simple are really difficult for our kids to accomplish. And if you just simply spread them out, it would be a lot easier to accomplish each goal and start checking them off. All right. So examples that you could actually state is, Sarah will write 10 sentences. Okay. Or one thing I like to say is, like, Sarah will write 10 sentences, 9 out of 10 trials at 90% accuracy, as measured by report data collection and written work by August 2021. Okay. So I'm making it completely smart. It's very specific. What is Sarah going to do? She's going to write 10 sentences. Measurable. Well, it's measured by the trials, and it's measured by the percentage in which the child has to basically make in those trials. All right. It's obviously actionable, and it's realistic, and the time limit is by August of 2021. The one thing that I left out of that goal that can go in all goals, or it can go in just some goals, okay, is where you say for how long that they have to do 9 out of 10 trials at 90%. So in some goals, I like to see that Sarah will write 10 sentences with the correct punctuation, all right, not in 9 out of 10 trials over a 30-day period at 90%. And then you can continue the goal with, as measured by data collection and written work by August of 2021. See what I'm saying? So you can have the 9 out of 10 trials. You can have the 90%, which makes it measurable. But then you can add a little oomph to it by saying over a 30-day period or over a 90-day period. All right. So you have to think it through of, okay, is this goal something that I really need to put a period of time in which they have to do it at 90%, in which they have to do it in 9 out of 10 trials. The word you want to get rid of in your IEPs is the word consecutive. That means bam, 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 bam. All right. And you don't want to do that. You want to have them develop it over a period of time so that it sticks with them. All right. So another thing is, you want to make sure that all of your goals, especially legally speaking, it has to be if your child's on an alternative track. But I always suggest, no matter what, have your child have short-term objectives. Benchmarks are actually no longer in play. A lot of IEPs still have the word benchmarks in it, but that term has kind of gone away, and it is now short-term objectives. And what that is basically taking the annual goal and creating short instructional objectives, okay? And basically what that is it's a way to measure the progress as your child's moving towards that long-term goal, that annual goal, okay? And they should generally be just that. They should be how to measure the progress, which is why your short-term objectives should always be when your progress reports come out, okay? So if your progress reports come out, say, October, January, and then typically a lot of them will come out March, April, May-ish. So you want to have short-term objectives like that. So October, January, March, or May, April, whatever you want it to be. And, look at your school calendar. Find out when progress reports come out and kind of narrow when your short-term objective dates should be. All right? So make sure that you do that, and then you're always knowing if when you get your progress reports, along with your data, always make sure you get data with your progress reports that, your child is moving forward and making progress. Because I can't tell you how many times I've heard where, you don't know your child's making progress, or you didn't find out until later, or they're not making progress, or they're in the same spot that they've been in, and you're not understanding why progress isn't being made. So if you monitor it with the short-term objectives, are seeing the progress reports along with and attached to data, which schools don't do. Request data to back up your progress report. I don't care if they want to send you a progress report if it's going to have, the goal and then how your child's doing. That's all great and fine. But if you're going to send me a piece of paper that has the goal, which I already have in the IEP, and then has a comment to it, you better have something to back it up. If you're going to have a comment, where did that comment come from? Your memory? Did it come from written data? Did it come from notes? What did it come from? Okay? So you have to find out and really dig into, my large course, as, Kim probably knows, it's called the Hunt and Gather. You got to know where your kid's stuff is coming from. All right? Yeah, you have these annual goals, but if you don't know how those annual goals are being accomplished or being used to create progress, then how are you going to know if progress is being made? Or how are you going to know why progress is not being made? It kind of goes back to that, post that I saw, that I told, I think I told my group about this, where a teacher literally asked that she's going to be teaching K through 3. She asked, how does she teach each child in reference to their goals? Because she's teaching random different grades. She was asking for help. She said, can you please help me? Because she had no clue. Let me read it. I'm going to read this to you. I shared this with my group the other day. Because it really was, not that I'm pointing fingers at a new teacher. Yeah, I have it right here. Not that I'm pointing fingers at a new teacher. What I'm upset about with this post is this is scary, to be quite honest. This is what she said. If you teach 3 grade levels, please help me, in capital letters. It's my first year and I'm teaching autism K through 2. Specifically, how do you teach grade level content and teach to their IEP goals and objectives? I think I need to pray on this one because I don't know what to say. Number 1, you don't teach grade level content, because if they're not on grade level content, why would you be teaching grade level content? You got to teach in reference to their goals and objectives and what is there in their IEP. Because if a child isn't, if grade level is multiplication and your child doesn't even know how to do 2-digit addition, why the hell would this teacher be teaching grade level content? Hello? This is the stuff that I don't understand. If you've become a teacher, you should know that you don't teach grade level content in special education if the child isn't on grade level. You don't do it. And you can't teach grade level content if you're teaching 3 grade levels. You have to teach to their individual needs. And special education is not hey, let's all sit in order and lines, and we each have a desk, or our desks are all together and we're all going to learn multiplication tables. It doesn't work like that in special ed. So how does this teacher, new or not, she should know that you can't teach grades K through 2 and expect to teach grade level content. You got various different ages there. You have various different goals there. And she's sitting here trying to figure out, how do you teach the IEP goals and objectives when she's sitting there thinking about grade level content on children that more than likely are not on grade level? Somebody help me understand this, because I don't. And I feel bad for the teacher, and I feel bad for the children who learn from her, because they're both screwed. Because you have a teacher who has a lack of knowledge. Bless her. I'm sure she will continue to learn. We all start from somewhere. But at whose cost? Do you know what I mean? So it's like one of those things that you struggle with. I've always said, I get doctors, you have to intern and all this stuff, but I'm not going to be your testing person. That's just not me. I want a doctor. I don't want to intern. I don't want someone that's just learning. If you want to play and test around and practice your skills, it's just not going to be on me. And I feel the same way in reference to my child. So you guys got to ask yourselves, where are you with this? Because these are the things that are happening today, and these are the issues that are going on. And thank goodness for teachers, and thank goodness for good teachers. But you have teachers, just like you have in any other career, where it's just not their cup of tea, or something's not clicking. And so you have to know where your child is. You have to know who they're being taught from. You need to know what that person's experience is. And you have to know, in reference to not their experience in, she has her bachelor's degree in special education. All right, that's great. You could be a medical doctor and still suck, right? So you need to know that the person who's teaching your child is qualified to teach your child. Not licensed, not has a bachelor's degree in special education or just teaching. You want to know that the teacher who is teaching your child, number one, knows your child's IEP back and forth. They should be able to recite most of those goals. Okay? When they read those goals, they should be able to understand them. Have you ever sat around an IEP table and asked the teachers to explain the goals to you? Do this. Okay? In your IEPs, say to the teacher, pull out your child's goals, all right? And say, hey, I saw some of these goals, and can you read on page 5, the goals there under speech? All right, let's just say speech. You're talking to the speech therapist. All right, can you read these goals to me? Okay, and say there's 5 goals. So go through each goal. And then when she reads goal number 1, or he or she, say, can you explain that to me? What does that mean? What does that look like? When my child's in your speech therapy room and is learning this goal, how do you teach them? Can you do that with me so that I can understand, so that I can then do it at home? Do the same thing in reference to math. Do the same thing in reference to writing. Get out a piece of paper. Bring this stuff with you. Get out a piece of paper, or, you know, if you're online, which I like to do mine online, get out a piece of paper, and on Zoom, you actually have a whiteboard. You can literally write things out. And in some of my IEPs, not all of them, but in some of my IEPs, I'll use a whiteboard and I'll write down everything that we agree on so that it's there and you can take a picture that we all agree on this. All right. And then I'll divide it, and then I'll say, okay, we're not really agreeing on this, or this is stuff we need to come back to and discuss. And this isn't done in all of my IEPs, but some of them I do. And I think it's a wise way to put everything in everybody's face as to, okay, this is what we agree to. This is what we need to come back to and discuss and figure it out. In your IEPs too, I'm just giving you some tips, is do not allow them to say, we'll come back to that. We'll come back to that. No, we're going to address it right now. I have a question right now. I'll forget about it. So I'm going to come back to it right now. We're going to discuss it right now. That's what's on my table and what I need to discuss. And just like you guys are part of the team, I'm part of the team too. And nobody gets to dictate who talks about when, at what time. There is no time clock unless you have a facilitated IEP meeting, which I don't suggest. A facilitated IEP is when you have, say, your case manager, and there's a kind of step-by-step agenda, all right, for your IEP. So your IEP starts at 10. So from 10 to 10:15, you have introductions and you're talking about present levels. From 10:15 to 10:45, you're talking about services. You know what I mean? So it's kind of broken down into the agenda. I hate facilitated IEP meetings. I refuse to participate in a facilitated IEP meeting. And you cannot be forced into a facilitated IEP meeting because it removes your right to participate in a way that you feel comfortable and you have a say. So if your IEP meetings are facilitated in any way, shape, or form, you need to refuse them from here on out. Now I can see your school system saying, oh, well, that's the only way we do it, you know, but that's not true. And that's definitely not law. And it's definitely not required in any state. Okay, so let's move on. All right, so post your questions if you guys got questions, okay? All right, so we talked about short-term objectives. And one thing you want to talk about too, or I want to talk about with you guys is I can write a template for you in a way where maybe I'll do kind of a checklist or something like that as well, where you know how to write short-term objectives, all right? Usually when I do an IEP makeover with somebody, I teach them how to write the goals. They see what I'm doing. They see how I'm writing the goals, and I go over it with them. And we talk about the goals, and we make sure that these goals are in line with their present levels. And we talk about what they want their child to learn, because you guys have a right to say, hey, I want my child to learn this, this, and this, you know? And it may not even be in the present levels. It may be just something you want them to learn, which can be a goal. You're just as much a part of that team as anybody else. And there's things that you as a parent want for your child, and that's fine and that's good. And a lot of times the things that you have in your back pocket that you want to suggest and that you want put down as a goal should not be shut down. So don't allow it to be. Don't allow it to be shut down. Allow it to be a goal and allow it to be something that your child learns because it's something you want them to learn. And I'm sure that it's something that's going to help them moving on later on in life, okay? Because parents don't come up with goals that aren't going to help their children. If anybody's going to come up with a goal that's the best of the best, it's going to be you. So have confidence that you guys can come up with goals, and the only thing you got to learn is how to write them. And that's going to just come with time, okay? So one of the things you want to make sure is that you have in your goals is, what is your child supposed to do? They're going to do what? Okay. The next thing is, to what extent? How, kind of thing. All right. To what extent, meaning where I said 9 out of 10 trials at 90%. Okay. And then over what period of time? That's where I came back to you and said, you can have over a 30-day time period or over a 90-day time period. Okay. And then by when? So by when, meaning by, it depends on if it's, the first short-term objective, meaning, it could be by October 2020, or it could be the next one, which is January 2021. Okay. So wherever that is. So let me explain something about short-term objectives. So if you have an annual goal of Sarah will write 10 sentences with the correct punctuation, all right, in 9 out of 10 trials over a 90-day period at 90% accuracy, as written, as measured by report data collection and written work, because that's something that's written. So, and written work by August 2021. That is your annual goal. So, short-term objectives. Sarah will, so you basically take that annual goal and you say, Sarah will write 10 sentences with the correct punctuation, all right, 9, and then you take that 9 and you make it, depending on how many short-term objectives, you can say 6 out of 10 times, okay, we'll do it 6 out of 10 times, at 60% accuracy, or at 90% accuracy, keep it at 90. I like to keep it at 90, but you can say 60. So 6 out of 10 times at 90% accuracy as measured by report data collection and written work. Okay, by October 2020. All right, and then for the January, you just take that 6 to a 7 at 90% accuracy. For March or April, you make that an 8. And then by your annual goal, which is August, it's at the 9, which is your annual goal. Does that make sense? So hopefully that makes sense. So that's how you write out short-term objectives. One thing I don't like, and this is what they do when your short-term objectives are, well, not your short-term objectives, that your annual goal is multiple items. So a lot of speech therapists do this. And I know why they do it. I just don't like it. All right. So they'll take several different goals, usually 2 or 3, because they go together, which they do. But you don't want them in one goal. Okay, so if there's 3 goals and 1 goal, or 2 goals and 1 goal, break them down. All right, then your short-term objectives can be specific. When you put 2 or 3 or even 4, I've seen, different goals into one goal, it becomes a mess. And then what if your child accomplishes 1 out of those things, but not all the others? Then they didn't accomplish anything. So wouldn't you rather know that they accomplished this and this goal, but they're still working on these things, which were put into one goal in the beginning, So take those 2 or 3 different goals, spread them out, make them separate goals. There's no difference. If they're put into one goal as 3 goals, what the heck's the difference in separating them into 3? The difference is they're not all clumped together. They don't all have to be accomplished and mastered to have a checked off goal and accomplishment, and that child have that feeling of success and that being checked off. And one of those 3 things may be easier than the other 2. So why not check that one off and then work on the other 2? All right. Then you're able to create short-term objectives off of each of those goals that were initially clumped together. We're creating short-term objectives off of clumped together goals is more difficult than creating short-term objectives based off one simple goal, written smart. Okay? So when you write a goal in a smart way, you write one goal. Okay? You're very specific as to how that goal is going to look. It's going to be, this child is going to write 10 sentences with the correct punctuation. Okay, perfect. That was very specific. How much? How are they going to do that? How many times are they going to? She's going to do it 9 out of 10 times over a 30, 60, 90-day period, whatever you want to do, at 90% accuracy. Okay, that's a complete measurement of how that simple goal of writing 10 sentences with the correct punctuation is going to look. There's S&M. Is it actionable? Of course. Is it realistic? Of course. How is it going to now be looked at as far as the time limit? And then how is it going to be proven? And I say proven to you because schools are giving out all these progress reports. In my mind, don't bother giving me a progress report unless you're going to support it with data. Don't bother. I can write up the goals and write comments myself. I can write up the goals and test my child off the goals and know the answer myself. So can you. You can look at your child, like if you had Sarah's goal, which is write 10 sentences with the correct punctuation, you know how to ask your child to do that. You know how to know if he or she knows how to do it. So why do you need a progress report that says, Sarah will do this, which you have the goal in your IEP, and then the teacher's comment of Sarah can do this at 50% accuracy and it's October. Okay. Show me that she can do it at 50% accuracy. What is 50% to them? These are questions that have to be asked in the IEP. What does 50% look like to them? What is 50%? 50% of how many? How many times are you doing it? And is 50% based off one session with you? Is it based off of 1 week? Is it based off, what's it based off of? Because when you're going off of a short-term objective, when the first progress report comes out, how many times did you go over this goal, this one goal with my child to come up with that she's doing it now at 50%? Those are the questions that I ask. Those are the questions that you should ask. You need to know the background of what they're showing you. Because at the end of the day, when a year passes and there's no progress and you're asking yourself, what's going on? And then the next year happens and then there's no progress. And then you're calling me saying, she's 2 years behind. I don't get what's going on. She hasn't made any progress. I just don't get it. The teachers say she's making progress, but I'm not seeing the progress. I hear it every day. So you have to start asking the questions, the right questions, and make them answer. They're going to try to bypass the questions. They're going to try to kind of move around those questions, and the question's still right here, but they're kind of moving around them. And some people are so good at kind of bypassing the question that you kind of fall for it. I've done this so many times, guys. It's not even funny. You kind of fall for it, and then you get off the phone or you get off, with the meeting, and then you start thinking to yourself, like, what just happened? Like, what was the answer to that question again? Have you guys ever done that? I know I've done it so many times it drove me crazy. So that's what taught me, okay, I need to write this down and, always schedule your calls. Like, don't do calls, do face-to-face Zoom or whatever. And I've done it so many times, and I started kicking myself in the butt for it. And so I started writing it down and writing all my questions down, and then not moving to question number 2 until that question was answered to where I understood. Don't feel rushed to where you they answer the question kind of half-assed and you're still kind of questioning in your head, like, okay, I don't really understand that, but should I ask another question? Yes, ask another question. Say, you know what, I didn't quite understand that. Can I have you respond to this again? Then you repeat the question. Okay? And then make sure you 100% understand before you move on to your second question. All right? Don't think that you're stupid. Don't think that you're ignorant. Don't think that you are looked at differently because you ask questions upon questions upon questions. I teach this in my big course all the time. You're going to ask so many damn questions, your head's going to spin. And the more questions you ask, the smarter you get. And that is the key to knowing what you need to know in reference to the IEP. You answer questions with a question. You ask so many darn questions that they can't help but answer you. Okay? And when you get really good, and what I teach in my course is I ask questions one after another, after another, after another, after another. And I roll them out to where the person's kind of taken back to where they can't not answer the question. All right. And I make it to where it's kind of like, okay, I'm coming at you with another one. You better get this one answered. And so you get your questions answered. How frustrating is it when you don't get your questions answered? Get the darn questions answered. Don't move on to the next question. Don't let them get off the phone, get off of Zoom, or, stop an IEP meeting to ask questions. Don't let them tell you we'll come back to it, because you won't. They won't come back to it. You'll forget the IEP meeting and move on, and you get off the call or whatever it is you're doing, and you're going to forget that you asked that question. And then it's not going to be answered for a long time. All right. Okay. Let's move on. All right. So let's go over this really quick one more time so that I can make sure that it's clear. Hi, Amy. Well, Kim says, hi, Cheryl. How are you? Marlene says, that would be amazing and helpful if you can offer a tool or template. Kim says, looks like my school is pretty lazy. They have me goal for reading, math, and speech. There is 2 under motor. I'm wondering if they are not doing what they should and don't want him to succeed and get the generated class more. I don't know. I'd have to see your IEP, Kim. That sounds weird, but unless there's very under motor, I'm guessing you mean fine motor or gross motor, and 2 goals, he must not need a whole lot of help there. But if he needs help there, then 2 is almost pointless. Amy says they do move around the questions. Oh yeah. They tell me my 9-year-old autistic son is failing science because he won't work with a group. Can't that be a goal? It sure can. That Sarah will work with, and some kids, you have to put times on it. Sarah will sit and work appropriately with her group for 15 minutes. At 90%, in 9 out of 10 trials, at 90% accuracy as measured by observational data and written data. Because you can have written data based off of that goal by August 2021. Or that can be a build, and it can be, we'll sit for 30 minutes or 45 minutes, depending on how long the class is. And then the short-term objectives can be 15 minutes, 30 minutes, etc. Yes, that's definitely a goal. Marlene says, I'm taking lots of notes, Raven. You're remarkable at this. I have never gone through a deposition in my life until recently. Oh, fun. I feel as though we have to treat our IEP as a deposition. Oh, yeah. Depositions are great. I love depositions. And not let them up whatsoever. Thank you. It's becoming much clearer to me. Absolutely. And it's the same thing as how I look at it is when I go after them of question upon question upon question, they're so taken back that they just start answering, and you're going to find out real quick if something's good and they're doing right, which most of the time they should be. And if they're doing wrong, you're going to learn real quick, because when you get someone caught off guard with the multiple questions that you're asking, that comes with practice, you throw somebody off guard. When someone's thrown off guard, things just start coming. And you want to hear those things, because when you hear things, you're going to learn more information. And that is what you want, is information, right? And just like she's talking about a deposition, you can then be happy with that information, or like in a deposition, if that person's going to then go testify, what they said in the deposition can then be used against them if they testify differently than what the information they gave in that deposition. So the same thing in an IEP. If they say certain things in an IEP and you're recording it and you're taking notes and so on and so forth, and then at another time they say something different, you can then bring them back to, well, that's not what my recording says on February 2nd, 2019, when you said da-da-da-da-da. All right?